Welcome, guys, to the SBN Network podcast. I'm your host, Steph, and with me is...
I'm Scott.
Yes.
And I'm Scott. We know how to do intros now.
This is a podcast where we take some deep dives into some wonderful artists and kind of look at their account in a different way, which is always a little bit positive, a little awesome, and you guys can enjoy their accounts with us.
And now that we've gotten more professional, I try not to say any dumb stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I try to at least always end on a good note.
The sheep's cup at the front really annoys some of our other people.
Oh.
For all
That's
the
why you did a
Wawa
precursor for the convention stores.
Mm-hmm. I had this image. I had this image of like holding it up and having some Wawa people start yelling, or 7-Eleven people start yelling, and like we all of a sudden lose subscribers. I would have been like, "Oh no, what have I done? What have I done? I've made a mess.
Because of that,
I've made a mess of the internet. I broke it."
They think it's a paid partnership, so they think you've been sponsored by them. So that's the problem, you know.
Yeah, for the record, Sheets does not sponsor us. Sheets doesn't even care who we are. I have no idea.
Not yet.
Not yet. They don't. What if
Not
they're like
yet.
our first sponsor? And we go back to this at some point. Like we become something, and Sheets is like our first ad that we. Remember the time? Oh my gosh, Luca! Welcome to this wonderful podcast.
Thank you
I'm
very
happy
much,
you could
guys.
join us. You are it is going to be such a joy talking to you. I have we have interacted a fair amount on social media, but we've never talked in person, like well, you know, face to face, digitally in person. And I'm really looking forward to this. You have a lot of I've talked about this a bit on the podcast, not a ton, but I was predominantly a film shooter until I kind of switched over to digital. And truthfully, toy photography is what kind of made me kind of focus on digital. So it's going to be, I think that's what attracted me to your page to begin with. When I started realizing, like, I saw it right away when I was looking, I was like, wait a minute, he's definitely shooting film. The grain is real. The you know, any like expiration and light leak haze and stuff like that was real. It was not digitally produced. And so I started following you, and I was like, whoa, yes, he's doing this. And it's still, if I could dedicate a little bit more time to film, I would do it right now. And you have definitely made me start thinking in that direction, because I did a film shoot up in like a year ago, because you had been shooting film. I had seen your stuff, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to bring some rolls. I'm going to shoot black and white. I'm going to do this. So I hope that people, the point of this rambling is that I hope that when people listen to this, they feel, you know, maybe it's something they want to try. It's not, you know, it's not an overwhelming thing. You just do experiments, and you go find yourself a camera, go to a yard sale, start out simple, get yourself something basic, and then just play around and see what happens. And so I hope this conversation kind of like leads us in that direction. But seriously, thank you for being on here, because this is going to be really nice. So
Thank you, guys. Thank you for the invitation, and yeah, thank you for this kind of introduction to my photography. And yes, like, it's nothing overwhelming. There's nothing overwhelming about shooting film, but it's the waiting for the film roll to be developed, and the waiting for the shot to be nailed is something that drives you crazy sometimes. Now I'm able to develop the films myself, especially the color ones. So I normally develop them in like 24 hours after the film is done. But even sleeping over that, it takes it's just crazy, because sometimes I think, oh, did I take that right shot? And it's all something that is like a circle, it's like a habit now. When I started fairly young, I didn't know anything about photography. I didn't know anything about film. I just took my dad's camera. I saw in the garage, and I said, put a film inside. I didn't even know how a film worked. I just saw it, a sort of canister. I saw the roll, and I said, just put a film inside, and I'm going to go shooting. And I remember I went to the back garden, and then I just went over the mountains with my brother, taking pictures of my cars. Just brought some cars, and that was the beginning. I was like 10 or something, 10, 11.
Yeah. So you started with cars, like right out of the gate.
I started with cars because my passion with cars just started when I was born, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, I started with them, but the problem was that I didn't know how to shoot. I didn't know anything. So for the whole time, I pretended I was shooting. I thought I was shooting, but I don't know what happened. I burned 2 films.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing. They were completely blank. So we went to develop them. The guy thought that my dad shot them, and he said, I have bad news for you. The films are blank, and there's nothing. We cannot do anything. And I was there with my dad, just staring at the guy, and I started crying. Yeah, because I mean, I had all my shots in my mind, and I said, I can't wait to show you. Now, my dad was my first, the member of the public, and I said, I can't wait to show you. Then my brother, because he was my witness, but nothing happened, unfortunately. And we went back home, and my dad said, no worries, I've got some other films. We're going to put them back, and you start again. I said, no, I don't want to hear any more about photography and about film. And I was too young for that. I was too young to understand. But I stopped for 4 or 5 years. Yeah. Until I reached that age where I said, okay, I've always loved photography. I've always loved creating my scenes in my mind. So why don't print them, in a digital format or in a film format? So I started studying, and I started with digital because digital was going really well at that moment. I mean, I was born in the digital era, basically. But in 2008 something, it was going better and better and better with new reflex and new things. So I said, okay, I'm just skipping the idea of shooting film, and because it was becoming expensive, and I'd get a digital camera. Yeah. But my first digital camera, I was happy with the results, and they were just normal pictures. But then I realized that what I wanted was to create a scene that I had in my mind. And it was basically just using the perspective. The car and the background needed to be in the same level. Mm-hmm. And that was really hard for me at the beginning because, I didn't have any clue of how to do that, how to achieve that. But then, again, thanks to my dad, is building places, is building scenographies for me, and I also do it with him. Thanks to that, I started with the small dioramas to achieve that shot. And the minimum was using the diorama as foreground and background, and then using the mountains that I had, at the front as a secondary background. So it was like 3 levels. Yes. With the subject.
That's what helps you get your perspective, which is really cool. Like I think that's a really smart idea going and then now you've even gotten further away from that where it's like you can really just place the car into the space and you're making it work for you. It's and that's anybody trying out like perspective shots like that. That is a great way to do it. Like, just use the least amount of the wilderness and the wild as you need, and then slowly start introducing more layers that is just present, just so you're not fighting with, does this fit? This is too big, especially as a film shooter, which is what I wanted to throw out at you, which is really cool. Granted, you said that you did digital at the beginning, but what's cool is that you don't get to check until you're done with the roll. Exactly. And I think that's something that can be a little intimidating to people, especially in this digital world with phones, and you can check right away, which is really cool that you have chosen to make it more complicated on yourself, and you don't get
and that is my challenge. I made it as my challenge because at the beginning, when I came over here, I decided to shoot film with a rangefinder. And the problem of the rangefinder is that if you don't remember the scene before, and if you've never seen a picture, how the picture looks like after it's been taken, it's really hard to understand whether you're composing properly or not. So a couple of my first shots are good well composed, but the picture is not in focus because I was either too close or the camera was slightly tilted.
And
Because
to
of course the
explain to
lens
people
and
really, I was going to say, explaining to people really quickly, a rangefinder is, so when you look through your cameras, for most of you who are shooting, you have a DSLR or a mirrorless now that work the same basic way, where what you see through your eyepiece, you are witnessing through your lens or through the digital rendering in some mirrorless cameras like Sony's and Fuji's and whatnot. When you're using a rangefinder, like what Luca's talking about, your viewfinder is not looking through the lens and it's not even near the lens. So what you end up with is you end up with this issue that you can run into, because the closer you get to your subject, the more it sounds weird, but the closer you're getting to your subject, the more exaggerated the distance is of the viewfinder to the lens. So you think you have this idea in your head what it would look like in the viewfinder, but it is not what it looks like through the lens at all. So
the viewfinder is perfect. Viewfinder, you think it's just perfect, but then you realize that you have your subject in front of the viewfinder, which is the other side of your rangefinder. So if the subject is in front of that, it means it's not in the composition because the lens is here. Another thing is when you have your lens cap. It happened to me once, and I was just weighing out myself. Like, if you have your lens cap on a mirrorless, on a reflex, you will understand it because you see black. If you have it in your rangefinder, you won't see it.
No, you won't.
So unless you do like that, you will never understand that you have your lens cap. So that means you take a whole roll of film with your lens cap and it's just all black. But you see your sins, you see them here, and it's just bad. It happened to me for a couple of shots, and then I realized it because I was taking a shot, like, classic self-portrait or at a mirror, and I saw the cap here. I said, why am I doing it? And then 2-3 shots were just blank because of that.
Yeah.
But
the joys of film. You never know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
It's always an adventure. So I know you do obviously the toys now and whatnot. Have you experimented with like street photography and stuff like that? Like, it seems like something you probably participated in.
Yeah.
It seems like your vibe. Are you ever, when you're out shooting, this is more just a artistic curiosity thing, are you ever thinking both at the same time? Do you ever photograph like your cars and then you all of a sudden see like a street situation that you're really digging on and like kind of bounce back and forth, or do you typically focus on one or the other?
It normally depends on the camera that I have at that moment and the time I have and the toys I have. Most of the time when I'm going outside with the purpose of shooting, I bring a bag with my toys. And I go to the places I've planned before, like just thinking, today I'm going to go there because of the weather, because of a certain thing. And, if it happens that there's a particular scene, I just don't care. I take that picture. But sometimes my cameras are all set to be used for toy photography. And it depends on the camera, of course. Like, if I'm shooting with my digital, mainly this one's are cameras that I'm like loving a lot, and I've got this first series and I've got the 4th series now. These cameras are perfectly usable for both. So if I'm taking street photography or toy photography, it doesn't really matter. I can switch between one and the other one in just a couple of seconds and I don't lose the shot. If I'm shooting with another camera like this one, I'm going to talk about this, it's a bit harder because I would prefer to remove the lens and change it to another one, but it takes longer and then you lose the scene. So I'm just, every time I bring this camera out, which is also on every camera, I just focus on the toys and that's it.
Because it's not, you can't really wander off and go do what you would envision. You don't have the freedom, you don't have the flexibility of the other cameras. That makes perfect
same
sense.
for the length, it depends on the length, it depends on the film you have. And I just basically arrange it the day I'm going to shoot. If today I decide, I want to stay light, I just bring one of these cameras. This is a digital. I just put it, around my neck. It's very light. I bring 1-2 cars in my pockets. And in that case, I'm flexible. I can do whatever I want. But if I decide to bring a bigger camera to put different toys, I mostly do one thing, unless I go to a certain place that I've never visited before. So in that case, I do both at the same time.
Now, I know Steph will probably start the slideshow at this point. I want to know when we kind of talked about this prior. When did this begin? When did this current account begin? When was the start? What made it happen? What was the inspiration?
Okay, so well, one of the pictures that you found here, that you've put here, is somewhat one of the first pictures that I've taken on this new account.
Mm-hmm.
And it just began because I was feeling bored at home during the lockdown, and I just wanted to express my feelings as I was doing before, as I used to do before, but show it to more people, and just trying to get the same kind of emotions, same kind of moods, and spread it to everyone. Because, we were in a bad situation and I wasn't working, so it wasn't really nice for me. But photography, as usual, has always helped me. And that's also just related to the pirate. I mean, I'm a pirate, not just as a name. Since I was, like 3 foot tall, I decided that I was a pirate because, watched many movies, many cartoons, and read books. And basically, many pirates were just misunderstood. They were alone. They were betrayed by their friends, by their companies. And that's what happened to me. So I said, why not? I'm a pirate then. And that just followed me every time, every day. And so I had to mark it as well here.
Good.
I'm a proper pirate. And everyone who says that, like, why do you think you're a pirate? Like, it's just a real world. I say, yes, but pirates existed in a real world, and I'm a pirate. And then I try to explain to people that I was exactly stealing memories, stealing stories, and just printing them in my minds. And then I had to show them the proof that those moments really happened. There was a particular thing that happened during one of my first exhibitions. I had a picture of Freddie Mercury, the action figure of the SH Figure Arts, taken in front of, the background of my of the town I was living. And I said to everyone, I said, Freddie Mercury came to sing in my place. And no one would believe in that. I said, guys, why do you not believe that? I mean, I'm saying it. No one would believe in that. Then I showed them the picture. I said, if you don't believe it now, it's just, you're lying because you see it. And I can assure you, like, people laughed. I said, yes, it's okay to laugh. You can think I'm crazy, and I am maybe, but I've got a proof. He was there. And that is the situation, that's always the situation. That's why I try to sometimes I try to mix cars and figures in order to create that story. And sometimes it happens, it's all related to the street photography. Street photography is reportage, is talking about people's life, street life. And my photography is basically the same, because I don't really like to shoot in a certain spot, in a certain place. I like to get the story. I like to get the people. I like to get to that certain place and understand the environment, understand the situation there, and then try to tell a story. So my toy photography is always related to street photography. And sometimes I like to convert people's life into my toys. So it's something that most of the time is just visible to me, but some other times, there's people who understand that. And the second picture there, the one with the first picture, it was me going home again after one of those sunny walks, because London has been just amazingly beautiful during the first lockdown that we had. And I just saw that situation. I just saw the perspective. I said, why not? And I always say to people, don't focus on the brand of the car or, the model of the car. I'm not talking about that. I'm not trying to sell you a car. I'm just showing you what what my purpose is.
Well, it is.
Well,
You don't do like it's never an advertisement looking photograph.
No,
It's
no.
you don't go with that vibe ever. It's always about the bigger picture and less about what type of car it is,
Yeah.
what is the model. Like you're not even necessarily like hyper focused on the toy itself. It's just
No,
that the
sometimes
toy
I don't,
belongs
yeah.
in that environment, and you're making them mesh together, which is really just it's beautiful. I love that. I love that separation there.
Thank you.
Was this first one filmed? Was this
The
the
first
beginning?
one, the first one was not.
Okay.
It was taken on my X Pro One,
Okay.
and it was taken with a recipe that I've created and that I've just mixed to make it look like film. But it wasn't photoshopped. It was just taken on camera. So that means use a certain focal length, use a certain ISO. So everything combines together to create that. And sometimes I use like a torch. I use like a specific light. So I don't have to go on Photoshop to edit my picture. It's just there already.
Yeah. Do you with the now I know this the more recent one, that one is film.
That is film, yeah.
You process your own stuff at home typically? Like do you have
I do that at work. I do that at work.
Okay. I was gonna say, do you have a dark room at work? Do you work in like a lab type situation, or
yes.
do you just
Yes. We've got a machine because it's more of a commercial thing. So we've got a machine to process the films, and of course it's got a different cost.
Yeah.
Because if I had to do it myself, especially with the cost in London, it would be kind of too expensive.
Yeah.
But I've got this kind of opportunity now, and I don't want to lose it. That's the point. And
as somebody, I will say this, I got to add to that. Like as somebody who worked in a lab, for when I was living in Boston, take advantage of as long as you got it, because I think honestly that's what stopped me from shooting film a lot, was not having the accessibility to develop it myself. I just like the closest until recently, which we can get into this later, but until recently, honestly, the closest place to even get film developed for me was like 35 minutes away, and you had to leave it, and then you had to come back, and then you had to come back like a week and a half later to get it. So I totally get what you're saying about having access to that at your work. It makes perfect sense. So.
And that was the same for me. Where I was living in Italy, it was the same thing. Like to get your film developed, you had to take a car trip. It was like 40, 50 minutes. And then, the price was petrol price plus the development. So it wasn't really worth it. That's why I just moved to the digital straight away, because I said I can still do something that I like, but I just have to make it cheaper, better, a bit more convenient. In this case, I'm happy that I can use my work to do my stuff. And even though this is a black and white, so this kind of black and whites, unfortunately, we cannot develop them in our store. We have to send them away to another store, and it's a bit of a problem because you pay a bit more and takes a bit longer. But it's, again, the waiting, it's nice because of that. Like you get that film in like 1 week or so, and sometimes you're off from work and your colleague sends you the picture and say, oh, you got your film. And it's kind of like very nice to get the pictures back. And this is one of my best film stocks in general. It's just amazing, and it costs a lot, but it's a great film. So my idea is to get more of that, and I've got a recipe here on my digital camera that makes the same thing. So what I'm doing basically in this, I just set the ISO to 400. That's a Kodak T-Max 400. I set the same ISO here. I set similar speed and aperture, and then I just don't look at the screen. So it's like shooting film, but in a cheaper way. That happens only when I say, okay, I have to save now. I have to spend less money.
Life of a film shooter. I know.
Yeah.
And I get it, because I used to, again, I shot film before I was able to process it in my own space. And it's like, sometimes you question like why am I doing this? What am I doing to myself? Because it's like it's not like I'm making anything off of it in the way that I was doing it, especially. And I'm just like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I would shoot one of the best examples I was explaining to one person was when I would shoot 4x5 stuff. It's literally one sheet. So you'd buy the film. The film is, comes in a box of 10 basically 10 sheets of film.
10, 12, yeah.
10, 12. And then you take those, I would load them into holders, and one shot between the price of the film and the processing just to take a single photograph ended up being like $10 just to do an image. And then that's not even including any printing or scanning or anything like that. That was just getting the film, getting the photo, getting it developed. And I think that's honestly why I tend to focus more on medium format and going a little smaller, just because at least it's a roll and I feel a little bit more like, okay, a few bucks, at least I got 12 shots or 10 shots out of it. That's fine. I can deal with this. But it's pretty.
Yeah, it is. It's just crazy. Like
more expensive.
Yeah. And it's getting expensive. Every couple of months they increase the prices of the films. They increase the prices for everything. So the thing is, you have to. With film, the idea is to try to shoot less, but focus a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
When you're taking pictures on a digital camera, you can take 100, set the camera properly and say, okay, I've got 100. When I go home, I'm just put them on my laptop and I'm going to check. When you're taking pictures on film, you've got 36, you've got 24, you've got 12 if you're shooting a medium format. And you have to understand that those are your pictures. This is your, SD card. Your SD card has only got 12, 24, 36 pictures. And you have to make sure that you nail those shots. Otherwise, when you take the strip, you say, oh, what have I done? If you lose 1, 2, 3, I think it's not worth it. And then sometimes, there's people at work, we have many people coming with films, and out of a roll of 36, they get 5, 6 shots.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't understand why. And my aim is to guide them through that and say, try to focus on what you're doing. If you're shooting with a disposable are really just going crazy in here. If you're shooting with a disposable, you know that the viewfinder is here, and then it's got the flash, and the camera is just there. So when you're shooting and you're holding it, it's quite small. Don't put your finger here.
Yeah,
you're gonna put it on the camera. You're gonna lock it, and it's just not gonna give you any pictures. It's kind of crazy, but it saves a bit of people. By spending their money, but at least getting the whole roll complete.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, they don't even collect their films. And I say, one day I brought this in store and I just showed it to some customers that I had. I said, this is the beauty of shooting film, because if you get them digital, only digital, you don't get the negative.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone can say you photoshopped that picture. That is not film. That is taken with a digital camera, and you've just used a filter or whatever. And also, there's nothing better than having your film camera developed and looking through the negatives. And also,
so much fun. It's such a good feeling.
To the positive.
And slides,
amazing to see the slides, and it's just, it costs a lot, but it's just crazy. And that is what keeps me shooting film, because otherwise I would just shoot digital and I don't care. I shoot digital, I create my own recipe, and that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But having your negative back and using a lens and checking through the picture, checking your mistakes and what you've done right, is just amazing.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Absolutely.
I don't even scan my films. I just get the negative. I go home with a light. I check them all. And then the day after, I go back to work and I scan them. Because the beginning was just nice to see every frame and see whether you were right or not. And same, with this kind of cameras, like this one, you've got no light meter. And the best is you're shooting film, but you're not shooting film because it's a trend. You're doing it because you also make your eyes, you practice your sight and everything. I'm checking the light with my eyes. That's it. I'm colorblind. I have to admit it, but my sight is almost perfect. And I'm able to read after many films, after many mistakes, I'm able to read the light in a perfect way. So I can tell you right now at what setting I'm shooting and nail the shot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good thing if you're starting with film and go to the digital to understand and shooting with a camera when the screen is not on.
Yep.
Or with a reflex where you have the mirror, the action mirror, and you have to understand how to expose a picture. But the reflex has the light meter, and it's built in. So it's just really easy. It tells you what kind of aperture you have to shoot.
Yeah.
Whereas this kind of camera don't.
Yeah, it's a challenge. And there's something really interesting. Like you said that about, exposure. Exposure is a really big deal. And so I will be honest, I did start on film. I'm old enough that was what I learned on to begin with. So I started on film, and it is really interesting because you learn even right now, like we've gotten to a point. So when digital first came out, I remember like the first digital cameras were just trash. They were absolutely awful. And then they started slowly like improving. But I remember like even trying some of the first ones, like my first digital camera, I want to say it was like 2.6 megapixels or something like that.
Wow.
And it was not very pleasant to shoot with. But it's like one of the big things that's come now with cameras, and I know I'm guilty of this, especially if I'm shooting mirrorless. Sometimes you don't even have to think necessarily about your exposure because you can see the exposure in your viewfinder. So I know the Fujis have it there, or you can even do it just through the eye viewfinder. So either way, you can watch it happening. So as you're changing your f-stops and you're changing your shutter speeds and stuff, you can literally just let it happen, which and this is not, I'm not bashing on that. Like, that's fine. It's a great thing to be able to do. It's a really fun thing to, for people who are just learning and trying to just have some fun and whatnot. But, if you're really trying to dig deep into it, there's something really fun about, having to think about all of your choices and the effect that those choices will have on one another. Especially, with film, deciding, when you're going to be shooting, what ASA film are you going to buy? Like, what's going to be your choice? What are you going to like, am I going to be, I've shot with a full spectrum. I mean, I've shot with 100 film. I've also gotten that Ilford 3200 film and stuff, like, picking and choosing based on that. Cause once you put that roll in, now I'm lucky. I do tend to shoot, which I'll show the camera I shot your photos with later, but I do have interchangeable backs, so I can take the backs off of most of my medium format cameras. So if I wanted to, I could change a roll, but at the end of the day, kind of just planning on what you're going to be shooting, like what rolls you're going to be shooting and making it, work. And then having to, again, work with your f-stops and shutter speeds in relationship to the speed of the film is a real, like, it can be an eye opener. Like, you don't have the ability to, oh my gosh, the sun's going down, I'm going up to 1600. I mean, that was like, you didn't even want to shoot with film at that speed. Like, that was not something you would want to choose. Like the quality and the, I mean, it could be a nice effect, but the quality is going to change. But this photo, let's also talk about film surprises for a second.
Oh yeah.
I
can tell you the surprise of that. So the surprise of that is because someone was being dumb.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I got tons of film surprises.
Basically, this particular shot was the first one of the roll, and it was a sunny day, very sunny day, and I was going to Waterloo. I know that in Waterloo there's a road where there's some particular cars parked, and those particular cars are one of the cars that you showed before on the black and white picture, Citroen DS.
Uh-huh.
So I was going there with my friend, and I just got to the fridge, just said, okay, today it's very sunny, I'm going to bring my Portra 160. Take a whole box of 5 rolls of Portra 160. I said, okay, let's go. That's fine. take my F2, and I said,
I
okay,
have an
I'm
F2
fine.
also. Love my F2.
Yeah. And I said, okay, I'm fine. We arrived there. I see all the C20Ss, and I start taking pictures. I've taken a lot of pictures of them. I was fine. I was okay. Then we just crossed the road. My film finished. I was just rewinding it back, and I saw that. I saw that with particular light going towards the car, the green of the garden, the brown of the building. I said, okay, I have to take that picture.
Yeah.
So I load the film. Without taking care of that, I just close the back and take the shot. So I don't know what happened. Definitely don't know what happened. But I was being too fast, too excited, maybe. And it's also a beetle. Like, it's something that you see in millions in here. I don't know why. I just saw the scene. I said, okay,
You got
let me
excited.
take
I
that
get it.
shot.
Absolutely.
But
I get it.
And I was really happy with that, because he just cut the picture in half, and that is exactly when I closed the back. I closed it in a kind of rush, so it didn't really expose the frame, but it made it like fade a bit. So when I took the shot, there was still a small lick that was just going through the back. I mean, I'm really happy with that, but the only thing is, taking that picture on a rush, I didn't understand whether I was being right with the exposure or not. Because the thing is, I was it was a bit backlit as well. So the beetle was kind of yellowish. So that if I take it right, it's going to be a nice picture. But maybe at the moment I'd taken the shot, the light just changed.
Yeah.
So it ended up being a bit dark. And if you check on the, if you zoom on the actual picture, when I blow it up every time to check whether the whole picture has been perfectly exposed, you see that it's a bit too grainy for a 160. Like a Portra 160 is famous for being first a Portra, so a great film for portrait and for skin tones. But it's also famous for having a fine grain. In that picture, the fine grain doesn't exist. It's just a grain that is big, like 2 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Because the problem is that when you shoot a certain film in the right situation, then you get what they say, what they advertise. If they say the finest grain, let's say I have one of my best films is the Hector 100. Hector 100 is famous for being the film with the finest grain in the world, and it's just amazing. But you have to know when to use it.
Yes.
If you use it in London with a bit of fog, when it's just a bit of clouds in the sky, you're not going to have the same thing. So this affects a bit the way you're shooting and the time you're spending on shooting. Sometimes I just take my camera, and this is heavy, same as that, and I just end up taking 2 shots. Because it doesn't really call me, the shot doesn't really call me when I see the clouds, and I have a proper film.
And the shot's not going to serve the film that you're using, and this film's not going to serve the shot. So you're kind of
And sometimes it happened. I've taken those shots and I've developed it. I'm happy with them, but not as I would be if the weather was like just a bit better, just a hint of sun just coming out, and it would have been much better. That one, I'm happy with that because it was a mistake, and I like it. I like mistakes. But yes, I'm not really proud of that because of the actual background that came too dark and too kind of creepy.
That is the thing with film that is fascinating, I think, to a lot of people is, again, you have to be kind of okay. You have to be accepting of mistakes. You have to be open to it. It's not, digital, you have the opportunity to, you even have the opportunity to repair a lot of mistakes that you don't have with film. And what I also love too with film that I tease the youngins sometimes just because it entertains me. And I like acting old around some of the younger people I know who do photography. And it is, a lot of these filters and these things that you see on Instagram and these presets in Lightroom, came from the effects that come from film in abnormal situations or normal situations. It comes from expired film. It comes from backlight. Backlight on film reacts very differently than backlight on digital. It doesn't look the same, and it's not recoverable. It's a totally different vibe. You backlight something with a digital camera, even without a bounce, you can a lot of the times pull some of that back. You cannot do that with film. Like
Definitely not.
That's it. It's toast. And again, that can be a very interesting effect if you're going for a particular vibe. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying that like it's different. It's a very different thing. It's a different experience. And so I think I love that you started the slideshow stuff with this photo, because it does kind of like, this is sort of like, hey guys, we're talking about film here.
And that's exactly what pushes people sometimes to try film, because it's like you never know what's going to happen, and the worst that can happen, and you have a frame that is completely blank, it's completely ruined. But even that, you have to think about what happened there, and sometimes it's a fault of the camera, sometimes you've been just like lazy, and you said, okay, no, I think I can shoot with the same preset that I used before, but then it's just a different lighting. So you have to think for the first, for the second, for the third, and so on. Like you've got 36 exposures, even more, and you have to think for each one, unless you're just shooting in a studio and you have the set place and you have your aperture and everything is just done.
Yeah.
And when you don't have a light meter, this kind of mistakes makes you even happy at the end, because you said, okay, look at that. I just wanted the perfect picture, but then the perfect picture just ruined it, and it came out funny. It seems like a scene of the Gremlins, and it's just very nice. So I'm really proud of that picture. I would have never posted it if I wasn't happy with that, even though it's a Beetle and it's one of the cars that I don't like. So
it's funny to me from somebody who's never shot with film. So listening to you guys, it's been really nice. But it's like, I see this and I want to know how to replicate it in digital, and you can't. So that's the great thing that you guys are talking about, is this is something unique just to the way you guys are shooting. So when I pulled this up, I was like, I always try to get like way too much overexposure sides sometimes, because I'm outside. The sun's really harsh sometimes, and I like that look. So this caught my eye. You think it's like super creepy and everything. I love it. That's why it's in this.
But there's some ways you can try to make a similar thing to that by using something like you. In that case, when I shoot film, and it's the same when I'm shooting digital, I have an aperture that people just say, whoever is a photographer think, oh, you're crazy. I never shoot at f4, f5.6, f2.8. Never, ever, ever. I always start from 8, and sometimes I stick to 16.
For the record, I want to throw this out really quick for people listening. That is such a street photographer thing to say. I have to throw I got to throw him into this, because that is really funny, because that is the essence of. So again, a little just educational context for people. A lot of street photographers use something called zone focusing.
Exactly.
They don't focus because they don't have autofocus on their cameras. You have to be quick, so you're not necessarily focusing in the moment. You're pre-focusing. You have a sense, that, okay, I'm shooting at f8, so my focal distance that I can work with is, I'm just going to make up a number here, is everything from 5 meters to 6 meters, whatever. That's my ideal space to be in, and that's what I want to be working on. So as I'm walking around, that's what I'm focusing on. So yeah, most street photographers do not go below f8. Like that is a very uncommon thing. So
yeah, it's a standard, because when you're taking pictures on the street, you have to understand that many people don't really like to be shot. And you can get not the right feeling. Like, so when you're taking a picture of a person and you like that particular moment, if that person moves, if that person is distracted by what you're doing, you've lost the moment. So it's the same thing for everything, basically. And when you're shooting with its own focus, you can shoot with your camera here, so not even put it on your eye, just here. You understand the distance between your eye and your waist. You set the focus, the zone. as you were saying, from 5 meter to infinity, from 1 meter to infinity, if you want to get like really good close-ups, and you shoot. And in that case, when you shoot in digital, you might end up going home with nothing, but you haven't wasted money. When you're shooting with a film camera, you might go home and start crying because you get nothing. But if you're shooting with an f/16 and do zone focusing properly, you definitely get something. Because when you shoot an f/16 and you're using, not in my case, because this is a particular case using a 55, but when you're using a 20 and you put your focus at like 4 meter to infinity, you definitely have something on focus. So it's just kind of like put your camera here with a short strap and you're just ready to go. Because you don't have to do anything. You've got a 20 millimeters, so it's kind of really wide, especially on film, on a full frame. And basically, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to focus. And like this camera has got a waist level viewfinder. And the thing is, you either do like that, or you just push this lens
magnifier
here.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, you just push it in, and you can basically you sit on your waist and focus like that. So you can have eye contact with the people. Just go quickly to your camera, check your zone focusing correctly, press the shutter button, you've done. And the person is not embarrassed. It's not like, what is this guy doing? What is this? Like, is he taking a picture of me? No, because you're not going like that. You're just taking it from a certain distance and you're having eye contact.
And even if the person thinks
viewfinder,
that they're being photographed, a lot of the times it's less intimidating for them if you're not like, here I am. Like it's, I think I've seen that even in my own personal experiences. People are much more willing to accept a strange photographer taking a photo of them if it's done in a casual manner. They might still kind of be like, what is going on? But like, I agree. Like, I feel like if you're being more casual about it and less in your face, I think it makes a big difference. So
definitely. They're not gonna be scared of what you're doing. And maybe they can think when I go out with this camera, it's not me looking at people, but people looking at me.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, this is a really old camera and it's kind of crazy to use. They also call it the left-handed camera. And I'm left-handed, but I can tell you that it's even harder to use than this one. I don't know why they call it left-handed. Definitely don't know. I kind of open the back because there's a film inside, but basically, normally on a camera, you put the film on the right side, and you just, sorry, I'm just being confused. Well, you put it on a side and it goes to the other, whereas this one just goes on the other side. You see, I'm just being crazy now. And I can show you the back of this. So,
and Steph, just so you know, feel free to move the slideshow at any point, because I feel like we could totally, like, when we're talking about film, like when I talk about film, I get so excited sometimes that I don't think I even know what's happening. Like I go into like a second like space of my body,
it's
and
the same for me.
I become an absolute like lunatic. So
it's the same for me. That's why I was just going crazy. So basically, this kind of normal camera, you just put the film here, which is the left side, and then you roll it here, and that's the spool. This camera, that's it on the other side. And normally you have on every camera the shutter button is on the right, so you click it with your right hand. Whereas on this camera, you click it with your left, and it's connected to the lens, which is a crazy thing. Like every lens has a button on its own, and it pushes the button on the camera. And it's kind of crazy. So people look at that every time. So if I have to do street photography with that camera, it makes it really easy for me, because it's people trying to see me, and I just don't care. I just take the shots every time. And what I was saying before with, talking about that light leak, you can use a knife and put it just on your lens, just stick it to the lens, and that will give you, if you move it, according to the light, it would give you kind of reflection or a leak that you can duplicate. It's not going to be the same thing, but you can try. I was trying with when I was practicing at the beginning of my digital photography, I was just trying with a CD, one day I was in my room and I had a CD, and the light reflected was just making a kind of a prism, and basically it just took it with that. And you can use a knife. Knife is really nice if you use a proper knife. You stick it to the lens. It needs to be in the middle of the lens, and you can move it, just tilt it according to the light you have, and it can make you a similar thing. But it's just well, on a digital camera, you can just see it on the screen and understand if you're doing it right or not. On a film camera, you don't know when it's going to happen. So sometimes you think the shot is just pristine, and then you've got that light leak in the middle and you don't know why. Like this one, for example. This one was a challenge as well, because it was taken on an F16 as well. And it's really hard if you take it from far to understand that there's a car there. And that's kind of my challenge. I don't really want people to see the car and just focus on that. I want the car to be part of the environment.
Well, I want to say that's something you definitely do. And what's really cool that I love is, and again, I think this comes a little bit from being a film shooter, is where your light spots hit and where you get your shadows and your highlights and stuff. It's all very thought out. And I do love the fact that you do allow the depth of field to go farther than a lot of other toy photographers do, including myself. Because again, I think that comes from your street photography background, which is really interesting. Definitely. And I love that sometimes the car is just participating in the geometry of the image, and it's not necessarily the sole the sole focus, like you said. And I said that kind of in your write-up, was that, of course I was going to pull out vehicles, but at the same time, that is not what in my opinion, what truly dictates your style. Like, I think you would do the exact same thing no matter what you were shooting. And to be honest, I've seen other things that you shot, and it is you still represent your style no matter what's there. So it's I know you said, like, at the beginning, you've always liked cars, you always had that passion for them, but they just kind of get incorporated into what's going on. And something I want to point out in this photo that I love that you do, and I don't know if other people have noticed this, is this really fascinating open-ended question of what is center. And I love it, because every single time I look at your image, I have to think for a little bit. And it's very easy, I think, because again, something I've done, I do, it would be to just center the car. When I'm looking at the car here, as if I'm scrolling through, the car is in the center. But if I look longer at it and I really start thinking about it, and I really start analyzing where is the center, it's not. The car is not in the center. It's really awesome. And it's something I think I had noticed, but I didn't really, really start noticing it about your work until I went through it this recent time as I was trying to figure out how I wanted to photograph. And it truly makes me stop. Like, it makes me want to, like, I've talked about this with a few people on here, but like, the idea of seeing your photos printed, I think would be really fascinating in my brain to like look at and like see it on a wall and step back from it and get close to it and step back from it. Like, seeing an exhibition of your work would be really interesting because of this. This is, again, is just an example of kind of what I'm saying. And I would encourage people, again, to go to your feed and look at what I'm talking about, because it is really, really intriguing, and it gets my attention every single time now. And it's really cool. It's a really cool thing that I think is an identifying characteristic of your work.
And it's kind of breaking the rules. It's like, normally the rules would say you either put it in the center, you either put it on a side, and it just matters of the people who read the picture, how they read it. Normally if you put it on the right side, you're reading the picture from the left, so you get everything, and then you arrive to the main subject. But since my car, in that case, is not the main subject, why would I put it in the center? Why would I put it on the right? It's just a whole lot of things unless unless I'm focusing on that.
Sure.
And sometimes now there's a project that I want to do, and I'm going to spoil it now. Basically,
Spoil it.
Imagine when you are you've got your camera and you are at a race or a football match or wherever, and you've got people in front of you moving their hands. I'm Italian, I move my hands a lot, and just cheering the people there. And you see that, and in your shot, you've got the camera here, maybe you're not so tall, your shot is just going to be compromised by the people, by their shoulders, by their heads. And of course, if you're taking a touristic picture, you don't care, because it's a touristic picture. If you're taking a picture of your favorite football team, you don't care. You're just taking a picture to post it maybe on Instagram, to put it on your story, just to show people that you've been there. What I'm trying to do is something like that. So it's recreated, but to be done as if it was a picture taken by a tourist. So what I do normally, what I would like to do now, and I will start doing it, I've got this toys here. I don't know if where am I going? This are like toy soldiers, and they cost a fortune. I've got many of them, and I try not to see them because they really cost a lot. And they're made of lead, and they're just great, very great, and it's just amazingly done. And what I do is putting them close to the lens, sometimes using 2 fingers. I set my focus, as you said before, it's on focusing really far away. And the main subject is going to be the background. And they are going to be my distractors. They're going to be the people in front of me ruining my picture.
Yes.
And in a certain situation, you think, okay, why did you take that picture out of focus? And I say, who told you that this was the main subject? Like, why would I say this is the main subject? I created the picture as I've seen it like that. If I've seen it like that, that happened. And especially when you're taking it on film, you cannot go back. You've taken it already. You cannot erase it and say, okay, I just format the card. I don't see it. No one sees it. It's never been taken. No, you have it. It's there. And that happens with disposable cameras. When people take disposable cameras on their trips, sometimes they have their fingers, as I was saying before, they have like picture really taken a bit shaky. And
one of the kids picks up the camera and takes a photo with it. It was like when we used to develop rolls of film, disposable cameras, they would drop off disposable cameras from their weddings. So you know how back in the day they would set them up on the table. Again.
You have that now as well.
It was. I didn't know if that was still a thing. I'm blown away that people still do that. But like the amount of chaos you get on those rolls is just, it's madness. Like it's just absolute madness for days, and it's so fascinating. Like that people still consider doing it, considering how crazy those rolls end up being, and like you get like 2 or 3 photos out of them. This is cool. I like that you picked something that kind of breaks away from what has traditionally become his, your Instagram's kind of claim to fame, which I think is really, this is fun. But now that Steph, you and the timing, we just talked about like tiny people, and now like this is your slideshows are ridiculous. I don't know, something about you sense it, where the conversation's going to go.
And well, in this case, there's a whole set of this pictures taken in my room, in this exact room during the second lockdown. And those pictures kind of represents what I was feeling at that point. And that was taken with this. This is just a normal desk light, and that guy is so funny. That guy is just holding his hat because there's a lot of wind, and London is full of wind, and basically it's just going through the light. And it kind of represents what happened during the pandemic, during 2020. It's been just crazy. Many people have lost their jobs. Many people have lost their families, have lost, the relatives and everything. And it's been kind of sad for many, many people. in my case, it started really sad, but then it ended up being nice because I've lost my job in March 2020 because it was just going crazy. Like we didn't even know if we were just going to open again, if anyone was going to open again. But then in July, so after staying for a couple of months without getting paid, without money, only with my photography, I was just only taking pictures, enjoying the weather, and hoping. In July, I found another job again, and that was closer to what I like to do. So I said, I've been lucky, and it's kind of period, and it's been really bad. So the person holding his hat and just going uphill with the wind is me struggling a lot, but going through the light. And going through the light, it's something that makes you, you feel the warmth. You feel happy because it's like you're on a park on a sunny day, in a park on a sunny day, and you're just enjoying the sun. It's the same thing, but you know that you've got problems, but you figure them out, and it's kind of what happened during that period. That was the second lockdown. The second lockdown didn't affect me that much because we were getting paid, even though it wasn't fully paid, but we were getting paid. But it was really bad anyway, because it was December and it was my birthday was approaching. Never wanted to celebrate my birthday. Never wanted to be happy on my birthday. I don't know why. Maybe because it's the last of the year as well. But I felt sad because I was alone, completely alone. And that helped me a lot because I said, okay, I cannot complain because I've lost my job. I stayed without money, but then I found another job. So I know I'm far from my family. I'm far from my girlfriend, but I need to be happy. I've got something. And that would made me take that picture and then all the others. The others have different stories, but that's kind of the one that started it all, like after the first lockdown, after July.
I love this image. Like, I love the simplicity of it, but obviously the depth of you in it. It's the tones here. I love your color stuff, but some of your black and white is just absolutely phenomenal. It's off the charts. Like, it is. There's something about your understanding of like grayscale and contrast is just like and obviously it's just part of you now. It's part of your brain. It's part of the way your brain works. I'm not saying like you're writing textbooks on the subject. I'm just saying that like it's become so part of your head and the way your head processes that when you go through your black and white stuff, like, again, your zones are just unbelievably perfect. And and I love it. I love that you have these black to absolute white, and the spectrum is all there. And this photo, it's so funny because it's, when you first look at it, it's just, it's a simple photo, very nice, but like, it's unbelievable. Like the placement of the light,
it is very simple.
It's beautiful, though. Simple. Absolutely beautiful. Oh my God.
Great.
Oh man.
Well,
there's some fucking contrast. Goodness
this
gracious.
one I have to show you. For this one, I have to show you guys the actual picture, because the actual picture of this is just here.
Do you have a slide of it?
I'm losing everything. Yeah, that was a slide.
Yeah.
And let me take it.
What slide film do you normally shoot?
I don't know if you're gonna see it, but that is the picture, and it's really hard to see. Maybe no, it's really hard. It won't be.
I saw the sky.
It's just that one was kind of hard one as well. I mean, shooting film is really hard every time because you need to understand what you're doing again. And that was my first slide film. This is my first.
What is it? What do you shoot? Are you what slide film do you use normally?
This is an Ektachrome.
Ektachrome, okay.
This is an Ektachrome 100, yeah. And I've shot another one, and I've got another one to shoot. But it's in London is really hard because it's It's not the best film for this kind of weather, because the difference between a negative, print film and a slide film is that you cannot make big mistakes. It doesn't matter if you have a light leak. It doesn't matter if you lose the first of the roll or something like that. But you cannot make mistakes in the exposure. If you make a mistake on that, it's going to show, because you're basically taking a picture as you're seeing it at that moment. Let's say this is an Ektachrome, and as opposed to the Ekta, which is a print film, they have the same ISO, so it's 100, but the Ekta has got a color, so it's got a patina or something, how we call it, that makes it film-like. This one, if you compare it to some digital pictures taken with a phone, I'm not going farther with a camera, taken with a phone, sometimes there's no difference. Because the thing is, a phone has got a small sensor, but they're trying to increase the quality to make all the pictures look like exactly what you're seeing. And slide films are exactly that. So if you make a mistake with the exposure, you're just losing it. And in this case, it wasn't really hard to take that shot. And that is a bench. That is like a marble bench. But since the weather wasn't bad, it was kind of shiny. And I just put the car, I've got it here, put the car and taken that picture. And I liked the symmetry of the situation. But if your eyes are going to understand it, Scott, it's not centered either.
Yeah, no.
It's not centered at all. Because it doesn't make any sense for me. Like I could have put it in, front and made it perfectly centered, but it wouldn't have been the same from my point of view, because I was just a normal person having a slide film and taking pictures. I saw that car, it was parked there, and I've taken a picture of that. Like it doesn't have to be a setup, a makeup for that. It's just something. I saw the car, I've taken a picture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the whole thing that makes the story at the end. And if it was centered, it would have been maybe perfect, but not from my point of view.
Not from your point of view. It's not your definition of perfect. That's awesome. That is awesome. This is such a good photo. I really love this. I love the reflection. It's so solid. And I love that the sky is its own thing. There's not a whole lot of extra stuff to distract you. It's and beautiful, absolutely beautiful geometry, use of the buildings and stuff around there. It's just,
and that's just London though. That's just London. When you go to certain places in London, it's just it's like they're serving you the exact background. If you go into Canary Wharf, and that's the contrast as well. Like that day, if I'm not wrong, I had a couple of other cars that were more suitable for that picture. We're talking about, of course, new cars, shiny colors, mostly supercars. But the contrast of an old car with the new buildings, it's just a different thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was the point I wanted to just make. Like the new buildings of Canary Wharf don't suit at all, cars like that. Really old cars, people's car.
Yeah.
And that was what I wanted to do, especially because again, that's my real car. I have that car for real, and it kind of represents me as well. So it's like me, a small little Italian car just working around London.
That's great.
That's the whole story of that every time.
I love that. I love that it's you in there too. It's like this is kind of like your little. Your toy version of yourself. That's a really fun thing to have. We just talked about this with Gosha the other day about the idea of her doll she's got one that's very much like her alter ego and whatnot, and I just love that that's what this car is. That's great. Absolutely stunning.
And the fact that that's a bench, I wouldn't have thought that. I thought that was trees, like it's like seamless almost like through. So that's awesome.
You nail that seamlessness, like when you use something as your platform, like you've got that down to a science, where you place the car, where you place the platform. I know you don't always do, but when you do, it's like you don't know the difference. Anybody looking through your page would never know the difference between when you place a car on a platform and when you place it on the actual grounds. Like you just, it's stellar. Yes, that I love that thing. When I saw that, I was like, "This is amazing."
This is the pocket thing that I used to bring last year doing my again second lockdown shots. It's very pocket now. I made it very simple and easy. I've just painted that part a bit like rough and gray to look like a footstep, and that's it. What I do is basically just going like that. I don't do anything else. And and I use it as an aid to some kind of bases that are not really nice. Like there's a couple of pictures that it's a kind of a project that I've done at the Tower Bridge. That position at the Tower Bridge has got a marble wall, and that doesn't look nice. If you put a picture on that, the marble really spoils the picture. It doesn't look like a concrete or anything. So what I've done for those pictures is using my old bag, put it on the marble, put this, and that's it. Like I don't need to do anything else. I just put the camera. I just place the camera where I want with a kind of wide angle lens, and that's it. It's all done. But normally I tend not to bring any aid. I just bring the camera and I try to get the best. And sometimes it doesn't happen because you never know what you're doing and where you're doing it.
Absolutely.
Like in this case, you cannot ride on a log, but it's
so
part of my dreams.
This is part of the fun, though. This is where we get into the idea of what allows us, and it goes back to what you talked about at the beginning, even like the Freddie Mercury thing and the toys and stuff like that. This is what gives us the opportunity to tell stories and get ridiculous and do things that you can't do in the real world. This gives us the opportunity to, we are very lucky as toy photographers and model photographers, and where we are not limited by a lot of these same laws of physics and science that the real world is limited by. And that is what I think makes this photo so special, is there's that feeling of freedom. This is so representative of the freedom of toy photography, the freedom of being on your own and going out and just doing things the way your brain concocts and like what it comes up with. And it's seriously, it's what makes this hobby special. Is photos like this are what make this hobby really, really special. Like, yes, you can take all these, you take these stunning photos of cars and you take these stunning photos of figures and stuff like that too. But these are the reminders when we're able to take this to another place. And
when the child is going back.
Exactly. When the child comes back and you begin playing again. And that I think that makes this photo unbelievably important. So this is
the whole story of that was because of old Fiat advertisements in the 70s. Fiat, in order to sell their cars, because Fiat never done big fast cars. All they've done was taking a French stunt driver, and he was making those kind of jumps, crazy thing. Then people would say, "Oh, that car will jump," but that would never jump because it was all all on particular springs and particular things that they were doing. So it wasn't the real car doing that. It was just like a strength test, and the whole thing was born because of that. And then of course I went crazy. I saw that log. I put the sticky tack at the back of the back wheel. Yep. And I said, let's see if that car can do 2 side wheels. And it did it. Even though that car would never do it because of the weight, because of the power. It would never do, never, ever. Absolutely. But, he's doing it there. I've got to prove.
So good. I love it. And like you said, you've got proof. It did it. There you go.
I did it. Definitely. And that's what makes it funny, because the thing is, you don't have to, as you said, you don't have to reflect the reality. You don't have to make things that look exactly like real. Sometimes you have to break the rules. And if you don't break the rules, for yourself. You're gonna get bored.
Yep.
And as I used to say, sometimes it's like my kind of pictures are not unique. Sometimes I post and I shoot different angles of the same picture, but just because it's like me enjoying the place, enjoying the environment. So I don't really care if the picture is split in 5 different pictures, it's not just one. It's just my idea, and I see that angle, I say, well, that's great. Then I check the other angle, I say, look at that, that's even better. And I take a picture there. I don't care, it's like, because it's nothing is pre-organized, nothing is preset. The only thing I said in the beginning is I'm going out, which toy I'm going to take out, and that's it.
Yeah, and let's see what comes out of it. Like, let's see what the end result is.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm just a tourist. with a car, with a toy in my pockets, and I enjoy. And I'm a tourist in London, even after 3 years that I'm living in this place.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still a tourist, and I like to go to that certain place and take that picture that maybe is the same as the previous one, but there's still a difference. The weather, the people there. If I'm taking a street picture, the moments are different. So this is what makes it fun in my way. And of course, maybe for some people can be boring because it's not that unique. And also for that, I would like to have a bit more time to do more of that, because I'm really planning to do more of that. But I need a bit more time. It's just now I'm busy with work, but I'll get back to that. I'll definitely get back to that, because it's
good. And we look forward to that. So
again, I love an outdoor photo, especially a black and white one. I was excited.
Yeah.
Well, black and white is my favorite color, and I say it because it's being colorblind. Sometimes I don't really recognize certain shades.
Yeah.
And when I go to black and white, I feel safe.
Yeah.
So it's just a different thing. And as you said before, Scott, I don't know. It takes a long time, but my aim is always to get blacks and whites. The gray needs to be the minimum possible. Of course, the gray makes the picture, because the blacks are the shadows and the white are the highlights every time. But the gray needs to be minimized every time. So I was talking about some pictures that I've taken with an old expired Fujifilm film. It was a black and white, but it was expired, and basically all the shadows just faded. And when a film fades, it gives you that flat color. But I liked it. I liked it anyway, because I said it's a gray, but it's made. It's not made on purpose. It's made because that film expired in 2007.
Yep.
And of course, after all these years, something has to happen. So I'm happy with that. But on a picture like that, especially when I'm using, for example, a digital with my recipe, or the Kodak Tri-X or T-Max, those blacks need to be blacks. So when you zoom into the bottom of the car, the chassis of the car, that needs to be black, and it is. So that's my aim. Every time you have to see the white, you have to see the black. I don't care if there's clouds. I'm burning the clouds. I don't care. It's just my aim is that blacks and white, and
I love
it's always like that. Yeah, that's. I thought you would put that as well. So that's part of that series, and that is taken on my on a cupboard. And again, that cupboard is really, it's that kind of shiny wood.
Yep.
That was making the reflection, and that reminded me of the beginning of my journey to the UK and to London, when I decided to visit all the museums on my own. And one of the first that I visited was the National Gallery, and then the National Portrait Gallery. And I loved those kind of pavements that they have. They're normally shiny, so you get that reflection, even though it's faded, but you get that reflection there.
Yeah.
And I always recall that kind of place as kind of my second house, because I love art, and I love all these kind of things. And to go back to my to the question, do you do street photography? Yes, I do, and you can see it there. Those pictures there are some of my street photography pictures
that you've put out so that these people could view it and experience it. That's so
I've
cool.
just printed them, and we are in a big hall of the museum, and as you can see, there's a guy who's bored as hell there. I just don't care. I'm really glad that they put a bench against the picture, so I don't get to see them.
So you don't have to look at it. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Love that.
And there's a couple that is really enjoying that moment, and that is related to my relationship with my girlfriend. And then
that's wonderful.
There's the couple there sitting on the bench looking at the pictures. That is basically, I think, it's like it's got no meaning at the moment, but the actual thing about toy photography, and I'll talk about everyone, I think, is that every kind of shot makes it different on the eyes of the viewer.
Yeah.
And you can get a meaning that is different than mine. You can get, and it can still make sense.
Yeah.
And I've got like thousands of meanings of that picture, thousands. And of course, the guy is bored. Maybe he's not bored. I'm just saying that. Maybe he's not bored. We can ask him. Maybe that guy is me and the couple is not me. So it's kind of crazy, because if I think that when I've taken these pictures, I was alone, my girlfriend was in Italy, 2,000 miles away, maybe that guy is me looking at the couple there. So it's kind of, crazy. It's got no meaning.
It's up to the person who's viewing it. Like, this is the way your mind has gone with it. This is the direction you have thought. And this is, the vision that you brought forward. But really, at the end of the day, and this is the truth with all art, is if you are not there to explain your art to the people viewing it, then it is up to them how they're going to interpret it.
Exactly.
And that is the nature.
Best, they can get the best reasons. I don't get the meaning of that picture, but I can try to explain it. And then sometimes they come up with something weird, but I say, yes, it can be. You never know. There's no limit on that. There's no limit. And the thing is, those pictures made me feel less lonely. And that is kind of the chain that is tying all the pictures together. It's like my black and whites, my high contrast, my shadows are all parts of my mood. If a morning I wake up really sad, I end up ruining all that white. So you don't see that white, you see a darker thing. And sometimes I play with my light, as I do like now, you get a darker thing. And I just use this, cover it in some ways, and I get the mood that I want. And when I'm happy, if I'm sad and I'm happy like that, I take it like that. And it's just a weird thing, but is the way we shoot sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think that I best express it with the black and whites rather than color. And I would say it's kind of an excuse for many people, because black and whites are also easier to get. But in my way, they saved my life. And color films and on digital is really hard. I personally struggle with digital colors because sometimes I think, I see the environment, I see it perfectly. I see it as everyone see it. But when I take the picture, since there's a digital sensor and everything, it doesn't really reflect what I was seeing, and it's kind of annoying for me. But when I shoot black and white, it's just a whole new world, because I see that, and I know that everyone sees it in the same way.
There's no debate, there's no question as to how that person is viewing it, because like, as somebody who has color blindness and like dealing with that, like, that at least the people looking at this now are seeing this the way that you saw it, the way you envisioned it. Whereas when you take a photo with your red car or something with your slides, all of a sudden it's like, well, they might see it a little differently. Whatever, it is what it is.
If you remember the shots of the beetle before, I said it was kind of yellow. I don't know. I don't know if it was yellow, but I think it was.
Is, you got it.
I think it was.
I love it.
The next one's gonna be our challenge photos, Luca.
Oh
we got
boy.
The presentation for right now.
Here we go.
You ready?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I'm up first because I was going to do this, and I went a little bit different than Scott because of all your people photos.
The little
Oh,
tinies.
okay.
I don't have any like little tiny figures, but I have these little things from is an anime called Attack on Titan, which
Yeah.
is you know what that is. Okay, good.
Yeah, no, I don't watch it. I'm not a big fan of anime, but I know Attack on Titan. So
Okay.
yeah,
I was trying to get it because like you have a lot of like your glass and your windows from when you were like in lockdown. Like you could see the textures on the glass, and I'm like, I don't clean my windows at my
Big
house.
time.
I'm gonna
Good.
try to get it as much as I could in this, and I wanted to go black and white. And I'm even more proud of myself because like my thumb in the bottom corner, so it
Yes,
well, that makes it really nice.
absolutely. I also love, like you said, that you didn't clean your windows and whatnot, but like I will tell you, it gives that kind of like that expired haze film kind of feel, and you're
Yeah.
creating that, like, you know, as somebody like I picked a roll of expired film. I think it was expired in like 2013 or something like that. So it's I love that you went with that, even though you didn't have film at your disposal. You still tried to create that kind of like that kind of washed out expired film look. Very is so cool. So, and geometry, it's so good.
Yeah, I think you got the actual mood of that.
Heck
Because
yeah.
the thing is, like, as I said before, like not using a software, not photoshopping your images helps you taking advantage of what you have. And
Mhm.
if what you have is a dirty, clean window, that's the best. That's just the best. And yeah, it happened to me. I've taken many pictures of situations where the window or like the mirror was kind of dirty, and it was done on purpose because he made it hazy. He made it a bit more creepy, a bit more moody.
Yeah.
And this picture is just nailed. It's just great. It's amazing. And also, it's like it's the opposite of like small people and big houses. In this case, it's just the opposite. It's just great. I love it. I love the idea of like not centering the actual subject. There's a lot of the top that many people would say that's boring because you see a lot of that. You don't need it, but I would need it. So it's just great. I love that.
I don't
Absolutely.
really shoot like vertical usually. Kind of like it's like a different kind of
Yeah.
feel for me too. It took a lot to add borders to this. I was like, oh crap, this is like all over the
Well, no, but it's just it makes perfect sense. It's just great, and yeah, I love it. I love the black and white
Me
as
too.
well.
Yeah.
I
Me
love the
too.
black and white as well. It's just with the black and white, you surprised me a bit more because the picture is great, and the thumb, the,
So
the
good.
idea of the thumb, is just
So
great.
good. I love that we talked about that on here. I didn't even see this photo beforehand. I love
Yeah,
that we were talking about
neither
the thumb.
did
and
I.
thumb.
It's just great.
So good.
It's just great.
All right, and Scott with his
My Jawa sand crawler. I had to find some reason to use my my Hot Wheels that poor Steph has been hearing about for like a year now. I've been buying these things and doing absolutely nothing with it. But yeah, I did. I found I had some rolls of Portra 160 sitting around. I didn't actually get any new rolls for this. I'm going to go get some new rolls because I do want to do some film shooting again. It got me
Great.
kind of hopped up again. But yeah, I didn't have any 35s that I typically shoot with, so I took him out. So this is a 120. It was the smaller of my medium format negative, so that's a 6 by 4.5.
By 7.
No, not 6.7, 6 4.5.
Yeah.
Usually I shoot 6.7. That's normally the one I use, which is my Mamiya. But I decided to go with something smaller since you tend to shoot 35. I was like, you know what, I should be thinking a little bit on a smaller negative. But I was it was really fun. It felt good to take this out. I actually got some really weird looks too because I was at a construction site, and there were some guys doing like I all they were doing, they were just bulldozing and kind of like scooping stuff into the dump trucks, and they saw me like laying there on the ground, and I could like they were like looking over the hill at me like, what is he okay? Like, what is he doing? Because I was just like laying in the mud, like taking pictures and looking up. But yeah, I definitely get stranger looks, I will say, when you take things like this out than when you take take smaller cameras. But it was worth it, and it was a blast. I had so much fun. Again, it felt reminiscent. It's the first time I had shot film in a while. Probably honestly since I'm trying to think of the last time, probably about a year and a half ago. And before that though, it had been several years. So it felt good to kind of take that back out again. So it was
the
a
picture is
blast.
just great. The picture is great as well. And I get two things from my kind of picture straight away. First is sometimes I like to get a bit down on the
Mhm.
base.
Yep.
So I've got the base here, so I like to get a bit down to get like a different level.
Yeah.
And because I like to see from from the bottom, from the ground up.
Yeah.
And that made the point. And then the fact you didn't center it, the fact that it's got particular shape, and
Yep. I thought about
and
that too. It was,
that shape it goes to a weird situation. You say, why didn't you center it? Why didn't you put it on the front?
yeah.
And that's a good thing. And also I like the effort of the frame.
Yeah, it was fun.
Because I
Food
really
fun.
love in some cases I love the frames.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's really nice too. I love the
Yeah.
colors of the portrait, and I like to say that it looks exactly like my latest portrait pictures that I've taken. So it means that colors are exactly the same. It's
Yeah.
a good thing. I see
Yeah.
the same colors.
It was
You
funny.
shot,
Yeah, I left it when you said the thing about the borders. I used to do that all the time. I always used to leave the negative border on it. It was just kind of a tradition that I'd gotten into just to show that I wasn't cropping, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that you did it on occasion. You don't do it all the time. And I was like,
No,
yeah,
I'm
you know
not
what?
doing it
I'm gonna do
anymore.
it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna do it. I'm so gonna do it. So I just did it. I was like, it was
No,
full.
that's a great thing. That's a great thing.
It was fun to do that again too, because it's been a while.
All right, Luca, you went above and beyond on this one.
I love
This.
it.
Okay, I'm glad you guys like this one. That has been taken 2 days ago. Today's the 10th. Yeah, on the 8th. I was going to fix something at work on my day off, and I had that little guy. That guy is a soldier made by a company that's called Timpo. It's a
Okay.
British company that made toy soldiers and like people.
Is this one of the lead ones you were talking about? Like the heavy?
That's one of the lead ones, yeah.
Okay.
But this is not same as those ones. So that
Okay.
those guys there are made by a company that's called Tradition of London, and they're kind of new, but they're hand painted, and yeah, they're newly done, same as the Britain. But these ones are kind of really old. This guy has been released in 1952.
Wow.
And it's a piece of solid lead, and you can see that it's been like painted roughly, because we are talking about the 50s. It was just a toy, but the idea was, I don't have to show people that is a lead toy, so I don't show them the face because it's not really painted well. If I find it, I'm going to show you. And I was taking advantage of the low tide, because sometimes the low tide gives you good things. And there was a rock in the river. There was the seagull passing by there, flying by there, and I said, "Take the shot." And that's the guy. That's the guy. And
I love it.
It's just a nice thing, It's just the only thing I'm not happy with is that boat. On the background, it's nice because it's in between the blacks.
Yeah,
there's a reflection of the park, but I don't really like it. I mean, but it's fine, I think, because it's like it was taken without thinking. I was just walking on the riverside there, and I just said, that looks nice. So
yeah, it was impulse. You went with it. You saw the opportunity, and you made the photo happen.
Definitely.
I love
because
that.
You see the picture before. Like, I have this, and when I have this, I say, what can I do with this?
Yep.
So it kind of guides you to the situation. When you see that, you see the person, you see the toy, and you just have to take the picture. I've taken another one that I haven't sent you. I will post it in a couple of days, and basically it's got like 3/4 of the picture is the man, the back of the man, and the rest is just Putney Bridge there. And Putney Bridge is in focus and the guy is not.
Yeah.
And that brings me again to the things I was saying before. Like the man is obstructing my view,
Yeah.
but in a kind of a good way. Like I like the silhouette of the man. I like that it's not in focus, but it's just looking at the same thing I'm looking at, and that's the aim in that case.
And you're incorporating it into it, like even the way you talked about the cars, how the cars are not necessarily just the subject in and of themselves. And so what you're doing is you're utilizing the situation that you're in. You're utilizing the people who are in that space with you as part of the bigger picture, and you're not trying to remove them. You're just accepting them, coming to grips with the fact that they're there, incorporating them into the photo, but they are not your subject. So cool. Dude, your work is just wonderful. Seriously, you're my favorite pirate ever. You are seriously talented. And it's like your page is just an absolute joy to scroll through. Anytime. It's like it's one of those things you come back to and just go through and just look. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
I'm really happy about that.
And I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us. I love that, you're willing to spend your afternoon here or whatever time it is for you. What do you, other than your Instagram, do you have any other pages where you are doing other work? Do you have anything else going on right now that you want to shout out?
So not at the moment. I'm trying to cut a bit of time to make my own stop motion place, because I really want to get into that word. And I want to get into the stop motion word in my way. But the thing is, not having a bigger space, it really is a problem now.
Limiting.
And I'm like waiting. I'm in the middle of something. I'm trying to build a website. I'm building a portfolio, and I'm trying to build a website. So at the moment, I've got 2 accounts on Instagram, and that's it. One is dedicated to my digital ones, because I think that the Pirate Spoils needs to stay a film now.
Consistency, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's it. I haven't got anything else at the moment, but I'm really trying to work into that kind of situation. And the problem is I don't have space. And I built a room that is working fine. I made my first couple of videos last year, again during the lockdown. But it was nothing special, because it was like just a trial. They came out nice, but don't having enough space just makes it too limited.
Yeah.
But that is my idea now, and I'm really looking forward to do something with that, and maybe one day working in the stop motion market.
Good.
Let's see. But yeah, for the moment, it's just like trying to make some people happy with my pictures and show them around my places. I've got a flight ticket to Italy in a week, and I'm bringing a couple of like films, and I'm trying to get my toys. I'm bringing this man to Italy to see what we can do together. And that's just that's going to be my daily routine.
Good. That sounds like a perfect daily routine. Well,
it is.
Again, thank you so much. Appreciate the crap out of you. You are awesome. Steph, I know you're all congested and you've been attacked by your children's diseases. That's what children do. They bring home their viruses. But everybody, thank you for listening. Go check out The Pirate Spoils, because he's the freaking man. Yeah. And that's it. Seriously. Thank you all. And thank you, Luca. You're awesome. Awesome, dude.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Well, y'all, thank you for listening to another wonderful episode of the combined SBN F-Stop Rebel podcast. Truly a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed everything. Remember, please do not grow up. It's a waste of time. I am Scott, F-Stop Rebel. And there's obviously Steph.
Yep, I'm still here, and you can find me at Slag My Thriller or the SBN. You'll see all the credits on the end, but I always want to say, just guys, stay awesome and keep it up.